Hi, this is Elaine, and this is my channel about the adult children of alcoholics. And remember, it's adult children of alcoholics, and if you read the whole title, it's and dysfunctional families. So just a little reminder that you don't have to be an alcoholic. You don't even have to have an alcoholic in your family. Many of us do. But if you understand what being dysfunctional is, I've got it in an earlier video. Check it out. Check out all the behaviors. And alcoholism is, well, it's the most prevalent and, obvious one. But check it out. Could be workaholic, perfectionism, whatever. There's a lot of ways to be compulsive. And that's part of the traits. It's part of the family dynamic. Okay, so what we want to do is we're going to do that thing called dredging up the past. A lot of people say that's not appropriate. That's not, oh, why do you want to do that? That's depressing. What's past is past. Actually, the past is present. It's always present, especially when we don't work through it, when we don't actually process it and look through it. So unfortunately, yeah, it's still valid to understand the past. And the nice thing about it is once you do this, you have done it. And it feels like, okay, you're not going to be perfect at the end of this. You're going to continue to have the 14 traits, a laundry list of traits, but you will have done this work, which is going through the things in the past. And what it's going to do, it's like this book of shame and blame, and we all carry around this book. It's like this way that we've logged all of our, personality traits that we don't like, or things that we've done that we're embarrassed about, and the words that others have said to us, and blaming us for things, and then we blame others as well. So the past, it's present, but it doesn't have to be in your face. You can work through it and then make peace with it. Okay, so what are we doing? In step 4, in fact, and this is not the entire phrasing of it, but we made a searching and fearless inventory of ourselves. Fearless because a lot of times we don't want to look at that. In fact, there's a lot of things we would do. I guess we could talk about addicted to excitement. There's a lot of things that we would do to kind of numb and try to make us not feel something that we fear greatly. We might even do very dangerous behaviors just so that we don't have to feel all this stuff. It does keep us occupied and distracted and worked up. So if we make this searching and fearless inventory of ourselves, then it's easier to move easier to move on. All right, so there you go. Step 4. I always recommend that you have a notebook of some sort. Isn't this pretty? And we take this notebook and we can write everything in it that we're going to do today. You can also just get your computer, make yourself a nice chart from whatever program you have. Expandable columns, certainly going this way, and just do that so you can put as much as you want and make that document really long, because the more we process through these things, no matter how long, when that stuff comes up again, we can't say we haven't dealt with it. Okay, so that's the purpose of it. Okay, what we're looking at is, like I had it on this little book here, the book of shame and blame. So let's define terms a little bit. We want to move out of shame and blame. Now, shame is what is directed at us. Well, we feel shame. You can shame somebody, yes, but they don't have to feel shame. I guess the idea is that if you shame them, they'll cower and feel sad and they'll feel miserable about themselves and then carry it around in what we would call low self-esteem. But it usually comes from outside, things from outside, and sometimes we do it to ourselves, but when we're kids, a lot of times it's coming from the outside, and you didn't live up to my expectations. You are a disappointment. You are a loser. You are a blight on the face of this family. So whatever it is, that's probably how you felt as a kid, especially if you're here learning about the adult children of alcoholics. Okay, so then there's something that we do that I think is equally bad as we blame others. Do we need to blame others? We're going to do that today a little bit. But that's not for the purpose of just like being a victim constantly. It just means that we certainly do hold some people responsible for the things that happened to us in our childhood. Now, the things later on that we chose for ourselves and the people we got involved with, we might blame them, but it isn't really a useful exercise to do for very long. And it really does keep us from looking at what we can work on and how we can change and how life can be better if we let go of blame. But we're going to do it a little bit because we were kids and it wasn't our fault necessarily when we were kids. And the goal is to hold people and yourself blameless. This is not because, like, regarding yourself, you do have a conscience, and when you do stuff, you feel a little shame, and you maybe deserve some blame, and maybe other people deserve some blame in your present day. But again, it has to do with our choices, and we feel better if we can just get to this. Some people cannot let go of that, let go of blame and have people blameless. I understand that. You don't do it for other people necessarily. You're doing it for yourself. If you want a happy life, if you want to feel less anxiety, if you want less pain in your body, then you want to eventually get to that point. Okay, so this thing is really heavy, so bear with me. I'm going to get this large chart. Let's see if hopefully this does not fall. Okay, alrighty. We have the laundry list. Now, if you've been following my channel, you know the laundry list, you've seen it, you might have, one of the first things you did is learn about it, and probably you already checked off all these 14 boxes or 10 of these 14 boxes or some. I would say it's usually most of these 14 boxes. And the keywords are here, and I'm going to try to hold it up the best I can. I don't know if you can see, but I've only put the keywords, like the first trait being we felt isolated and we felt afraid of authority figures. Keyword here, number 2, we were approval seekers. Okay, we're always trying to get people to say we're okay. We're looking for it. We were looking for it as kids, and we're still doing it today. And we lost our identity in the process. So if we're just trying to please others, right, we're forgetting who we are and what we need. Afraid of criticism. This is much longer, but it's so similar, I think, to the first one. But the criticism is like that active part of why we were afraid. Oh my God, you're going to tell me what I did wrong? We find other compulsive personalities who will abandon us or fulfill our abandonment needs. I've talked about this in the other videos, so please go back to that. You really need to start with step 1. But we do seek out the same people as our parents again and again, and they will abandon us, and for some reason it's what we want to do. So my head's cut off, so you understand we're looking at the chart, not at me. All right. We look at life from the viewpoint of victims. I just hate that word victim, and when I think of it, it just makes me want to scream. But there were definitely, as children, we were victims, right? But we can go ahead and keep doing that and feeling like victims It's usually not very helpful. You get a little sympathy, people, it gets worn out. But we're going to get to do that today. We get to talk about being a victim. And we were, especially as kids. All right. We had an overdeveloped sense of responsibility. We started taking care of everybody and we started taking everything on. In my case, I became an activist. I did the whole thing. I could go through my life and tell you all the ways in which I felt responsible to save the world. Okay, there were a lot of different manifestations of that. It's not a bad thing, but I'm going to talk about that later. We had guilt feelings when we stood up for ourselves. So sometimes we have to do that. We have to stick up for ourselves. But we shouldn't feel guilty about it, not if we really know that it's keeping us from losing our identity, which is the previous one there. We became addicted to excitement. Excitement's great, isn't it? But like I just said, I hope I said that at the beginning, but I don't know. Addicted to excitement, we want to do things to numb the pain, the shame, the blame, all that stuff. I'm not saying we're going to all go out and ride like motorcycles over canyons or anything like that, but it means that we have to find something, that sort of gets a thrill or some kind of way, which some people it's alcohol. So you'll understand that more. Addicted to excitement. Excitement's great, okay, but if it's an addiction, it's not so great. We confuse love with pity. So when we're looking for love, if we might not want to hang out with somebody that's like all put together and healthy and confident, we choose to save people. All right. Let's see. We stuffed our feelings. I did for many years, and it manifested physically in my body that I was like in denial and I was holding in things. And when we stuff our feelings, it's not that good. We're going to want to do body work, but even what we do today is going to start releasing some of those feelings. We judge ourselves harshly, beat ourselves up. This is what we're working on. Dependent personality. So we start, again, we're looking for others to help us fulfill our abandonment needs, but we begin to just let other people make decisions for us sometimes. Para-alcoholics. This one talks about how we've chosen our partners who are maybe alcoholics or have some other dysfunction, and we sort of start to take on the traits of that alcoholic, okay, or person who's addicted to narcotics or whatever it is. All right. And we're reactors, it's very at the bottom here, rather than actors. It's so much better to be in charge of your own life than to, just react to what other people are doing all the time. We want the end goal here to be people who think for ourselves, choose for ourselves. All right. And we want to be the actors of our own lives. So the chart, I have it here. These are all heavy. And I don't want to talk about it. Then I'm self-critical, right? Okay. But I am a little bit today because I want to make this very understandable to you. The first real chart that you're going to make is the laundry list worksheet. And you're going to have your traits ready. What did I say here? You're going to have your list out of your laundry list traits. And you're going to make 5 columns. One is the event. One is the cause of the event. Usually something kind of came prior to that. How I felt. My inner child. Okay. And that's actually going to talk about what you feel in your body, the way that this chart works, and which trait does it apply to. So helpful in this step is to have your chart already made, all set up with the columns, or maybe just kind of list things in here, like give a lot of pages between each event. However you want to do it, that's up to you. But this could be really long. Let me see if I can find it in here for you. It is opened right up. Okay, so if you have this yellow workbook, we are on at least this version. I can't even read the numbers, but anyway, it looks like that. Okay, all right. Now I'm going to do a pretend laundry list worksheet, couple events, and I'm going to ask you after this to kind of just take the ball and run with it. All right, so let's say this is common for a lot of us. We're going to just start with an event. Dad didn't come home. All right. Now, maybe he came home later. Okay, whatever, but it was really late. Maybe he never came back again, or didn't come back after months, or whatever it is. But this happens. Okay, sometimes mom does this. And then, well, the cause of it was, I guess, that dad is unhappy and he goes to the bar. All right, that caused him maybe to not come home. Maybe he just kind of went on a spree with alcohol or whatever it is and did not come home. And so it was caused by his own unhappiness. He's unhappy and he doesn't know what to do with it. So he masks it with alcohol. And that caused it. All right, something had to precipitate sometimes this behavior. How did I feel? Well, I felt worried for him. Is he going to get in an accident on the way home? Okay, that's that overdeveloped sense of responsibility. Remember, that's one of the ones we just talked about on the laundry list. We feel a responsibility towards our parents. We worry about them. We think, oh my God, they, we think our worrying is going to help, but yeah, okay. So I felt worried, let's say, and ashamed for my mother, because wow, she's just being left. I didn't connect it to myself when I was young. It's connected to mom, because it's like, wow, we should have a nice family like other people. And but I was scared about my future. Like, how much longer can this go on? How can we have a family that functions? Okay. So one of my feelings was this fear of the future. What's going to happen to me? What's going to happen to my mom? What's going to happen to all of us if things don't improve? And then the inner child component is looking at, see if you can see that. You could feel tightness in your chest, and your stomach can have problems because what's going to happen is you're just like not digesting your food. You're, everything's squishy, sloshy in your stomach, because when you feel afraid, it does affect parts of your body, and maybe when you worry, it affects your stomach. Okay, you have tightness in your chest. That could be grief. Maybe because it's just this feeling of loss already, because you see, dad didn't come home or whatever. So there's this this is intense loss and grief about what our lives are supposed to be. So we feel things physically in our bodies when we were kids. We didn't just have a feeling and it was just sort of floating up there. The feelings manifested in our bodies. And there's a great book called The Body Keeps the Score. I can't think of the author's name right now, but just look it up. The Body Keeps the Score. And the idea is that all these things that happened in our past, we're feeling it in different places. We might feel it in our lower back. We may feel like on our shoulders, like we're carrying the weight of the world. All right. We might feel tightness in our legs because we're trying to repress a lot of anxiousness. Okay, we're trying to tighten, but then the body just like reacts by the leg shaking or something. So there's so many ways in which grief and pain and fear and all this from our past manifests itself in the body. And it's curious because when things happen in the present time, sometimes we feel it in the same places, and it is associated with a memory. So yeah, so that chart might make you feel some stuff. And again, you gotta be brave and you gotta push on, because I will tell you, I had did have this problem with this shaking leg thing, because sometimes I would talk to somebody about my past, and I always was very, even as a kid, I was very businesslike about it. I would just talk about it like, yeah, I'm over it and nothing. I'm just telling the story. Like it didn't belong to me. Like I didn't go through those things. And as I would relate the story, as time, like I got further into the story, I would find that my leg was shaking, 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 shaking. And I was disconnected. Like my brain couldn't understand the leg doing that. Like, that was denial. Just didn't understand this anxiousness, this frustration, this fear, whatever it was causing my leg to shake. And I would try to breathe and just calm the leg down. Maybe had to stop telling my story. I mean, it was pretty evident to me that I still carried this stuff. So anyway, the inner child, that's kind of our inner child work that we do, and very powerful. Then you're actually going to look at the traits. So maybe those things apply to number 6 and number 1. And just looking through the list, and you could probably put more things that you would feel. But this is so helpful, because then you see, oh yeah, that laundry list, it does apply to me. And I want to flip that, I want to flip that around and make life better. So it does help quite a bit to actually isolate it and look at it. Okay, I'll give you a second one. I'm not going to go through everything. Mom was chronically ill. She shook me. All right, so maybe your parent had a illness that sometimes it's something they can't help. Sometimes they have a mental illness that they cannot help. It manifests almost exactly the same as alcoholism. We're not trying to say, oh, my parent was like a bad person by being mentally ill. We're just trying to say that how we receive it as children, how we feel it, and maybe some of these behaviors that manifest are very similar to what you have somebody who drank too much and they go into a rage and they're physical with you. Could also be a result of a mental illness. It doesn't mean that the thing is that we don't really want to blame the person so much as the illness. We have to understand, as kids, it didn't feel much different, to be hurt by a family member because they were ill. Could be mentally ill or physically ill. They can also just kind of flash out at you. So, okay, what was the cause of it? Cause of the event? Let's see. She was having a breakdown and blamed me. So it's kind of a misplaced thing. If somebody maybe comes to a breaking point, and I hesitate to say nervous breakdown, but sometimes people have like smaller breakdowns, right? Complete breakdown, I'm not qualified to say, but that could be what causes the physical altercation and being shaken, is that person has come to some sort of point in their life where they're breaking down emotionally and they strike out. So that's the cause, and it's precipitated by those things. Could be, like I said, mental illness, physical illness. So anyway, then I keep getting up and down here. Okay, I was afraid we'd get hurt, and I was hoping that somebody would intervene, and sometimes they don't. Sometimes you're getting hurt, and nobody intervenes to try to save you. So we feel abandoned at those times too. So let me see. Finally, the inner child, let's see. All right, elevated heart rate. You feel that your heart's pumping and really, really fast. You're really scared, but you feel that heart fluttering and beating too fast. Yeah, and then you might have difficulty breathing, because what we kind of hold in when we're afraid or we're being hurt, and we don't relax, and our breathing is tight. So that might be another way that we feel it. Our inner child feels it. And even, in the present time, if we have altercations like these, we have physical, besides maybe actually being hurt by the other person, our reaction, our feelings cause us to have pain in our body. And I saw just a whole bunch of traits related to this one, okay? For instance, being afraid of authority figures. Let's see. The viewpoint of victims, seeing life as a viewpoint of victims. We were victims a lot as kids. It's not our fault, but we see life from that viewpoint afterwards. Let's see, we judge ourselves harshly. So let's say we're being blamed for whatever the emotional outburst is, then we begin to later on judge ourselves harshly in our adult lives. And we're reactors. What else can we do when we're kids? We react, we cower, we're scared, we go under a table, we run out the front door. We're going to react. Now, as kids, we don't have a whole lot of solutions for this. When we're adults, we really have a little bit more. I'm not going to say it's easy for everybody. If you're in an abusive relationship, you might stay in it for what you think it gives you, or how it might keep you safe from other things, or maybe the threat or the blackmail or the what is the word? Extortion, if you should leave. So when we're older, though, we do start acting. We start to act on our own behalf. We choose better, of course. We might do something to avoid a situation, but that's still reacting. So what kind of life do we want? That's how we become actors and not reactors. Okay, so when you make this list, okay, it's going to be not on one of these dry erase boards. You want something with expanding columns and expanding whatever we call it. We've got these columns here, and then we've got these cells, whatever, and we can expand it, longer or wider or whatever we want to do if we use a computer. So I hope that you'll really take some time to work on those laundry list traits and going through that worksheet, because I think as many events as we can put, and be gentle with yourself, okay? But as many as we can put, the more we process the past, and the more maybe physically we feel better. Maybe we understand our feelings more. Maybe we understand why we fly off the handle, why we feel as if we're out of control, why we strike out at somebody else physically, why we do so many things, why we go and grab a bottle and drink it to numb our feelings, or whatever it is we're doing with that. So working through this, take your time. Be gentle with yourself. Drink water. Water helps us. It helps actually, helping to flush your system, but it's also just healing. It's all, your whole body is getting treated better just by hydrating it. Take a nap if you have to. Just what is called in this workshop a gentleness break. And also there's some meditation exercises. I'm not going to go through everything in the book. I really, really stress, get yourself the workbook. Get yourself the big red book. Here it is. Get yourself the big red book, and also avail yourself of online resources like the what does it look like? What's the solution? And there's one more thing, and I think it is what does the future look like? So it's not called that, but it's something along those lines. Is what's it going to look like when you're done with this? So if you can get the resources, it's not really that expensive. There's a lot of resources online, and maybe you can get this, I don't know, but maybe as a PDF. But this is so good, and probably a little bit cheaper. If you can get this 12 Steps of Adult Children workbook, it's yellow, you can't miss it. If you go to, I think it's adultchildren.org. It's not ACA.org, that's the health thing, so it doesn't going to help you, but you can find it on adultchildren.org, and you can order the books. Maybe you'll even find something like this in a little library or something, but get that if you can, because I don't think if you just follow my videos, it's enough. I'm trying to give you as much as I can, but I think you really need to have, especially the gentleness breaks, the meditations. There are some great stories in the book that actually are testimony from people that wanted to share their stories. So let's say you're not able to attend a group wherein you can share with other people. You have like little tidbits, little snippets of people's stories that basically amplify like all of this. All right, that just, and it's a mirror that's held up to you. So if you can do that, we're going to start the other charts in the next video. Probably I'll be putting these out on Friday. So if you, I'm going to try to be regular about it. We'll try to do Fridays, sometimes Thursdays, but I try to get it out there to you end of the week. Okay, I'm trying to think of what else to say. I'm going to have to review this video and see if I like it, and I'll post it up, and we'll see you next time. And happy searching and fearlessly inventorying your life. Thank you. Bye-bye.